Bible, it doesn't just mean they stop fighting, it also means they start working together for each other's benefit. This state of shalom is what Israel's kings were supposed to cultivate, and it rarely happened. So the prophet Isaiah, he looked forward to a future king, a prince of shalom, and his reign would bring shalom with no end. A time when God would make a covenant of shalom with his people and make right all wrongs and heal all that's been broken. This is why Jesus' birth in the New Testament was announced as the arrival of eirene. Remember, that's the Greek word for peace. Jesus came to offer his peace to others, like when he said to his followers, "My peace I give to you all." The apostles claimed that Jesus made peace between messed up humans and God when he died and rose from the dead. The idea is that he restored to wholeness the broken relationship between humans and their creator. This is why the Apostle Paul can say Jesus himself is our eirene. He was the whole complete human that I am made to be, but have failed to be. And now he gives me his life as a gift. And this means that Jesus' followers are now called to create peace. Paul instructed local churches to keep their unity through the bond of peace, which requires humility and patience and bearing with others in love. Becoming people of peace means participating in the life of Jesus, who reconciled all things in heaven and earth, restoring peace through his death and resurrection. So peace takes a lot of work, because it's not just the absence of conflict. True peace requires taking what's broken and restoring it to wholeness, whether it's in our lives, our relationships, or in our world. And that's the rich biblical concept of peace. It's in our lives, our relationships, or in our world. And that's the rich biblical concept of peace.
Right? Peace. It's something we say a lot and we talk about a lot. We put it on walls. We have a symbol for it. Peace. That's what you do when you want to be peaceful with somebody. You put up two things. Well, in this country, that's what you do, right? Hand signals differ. Just warning, if you go to different places, foreign countries, hand signals differ between different nations. But it's something we talk about a lot and something we'll be talking about today. I'm excited for this one. I love the children's program. I love it. It was awesome. It always makes me smile. I told you last week the bells are my absolute favorite part. I just love to see what those kids are going to do. And I know they're supposed to play the bells, but like what they could do. I've seen kids hit each other with bells. I've seen kids throw bells. I've seen kids refuse stubbornly to play bells. It's entertaining. It's wonderful. I love that part. But thanks again to everybody that helped out with that. It is just such an awesome thing. But I'm excited to be back with you. Be praying for Pastor Scott. He was originally slated to preach today, and he had a procedure. Now he's fine, but he's going to be good. But it's going to help his quality of life, we hope. So be praying for him. Reach out to him. Say hi to him if you think about him. He could use us to help bring him some peace. So I think we could do that as people, couldn't we? But once again, this is the third time you've heard this, so if you forget it, it's on you now. Next week we will have church service at regular time. We will have the kids in here with us, unless they're nursery kids, in which there will be the nursery open. Everybody heard that 3 times today? It's not on me if you come in next week and go, I don't know what's going on. That's no Christmas Eve service in the evening. We're going to do our Christmas Eve service at regular time. It's going to be an awesome week well, I love the next 2 weeks, basically. I was telling Jimmy this morning, this is we're entering into the 4 weeks where it's okay for there to be snow. So I saw the rain coming down today. I was like, oh, that could have been snow, and that would have been just so beautiful. I like to have snow on Christmas, but not much after that. But bring your families, and I see you guys have been doing that, by the way, for the last month or so. Bring your families. What's really cool is you can bring your families like in January and February, too. It's super cool. And families, if you're here with someone that you love and you're visiting, we show up here every week, and we have a good time. And I'm telling you, I think you would like it. So come chat me up. I'll talk to you about it. I'll give you all the details. But we do this all year round because it's not just something we do. It's who we are. What happens on Sunday is an act of outward worship. It's a corporate worship we do together to a God that has done so much for us. If you only show up on Sunday to receive, you're missing out on what it's really for. You're missing out on what it's really for. We're actually here to praise God Himself. That's our number one job when we're here, but also to build community, to bring peace. I love the one line he said, when 2 nations would bring shalom, They would. It's not that they just stopped fighting and then continued to hate each other. It's that they would stop fighting and then work to help one another. It's that next step of completeness and wholeness that peace is about, well, a lot of different things. If I say the word peace, you might think of a lot of things. There's peace from physical stress. If you guys have ever had a medical emergency or an ongoing medical event that happens to you, you've had bad health at all, at any time in your life, even if you've just had the flu for a couple days, you can understand how your world can be stopped by just the slightest change in physical stress that happens around you. Next thing you know, life is completely different. Every day is different because of it. If you need peace from physical stress, you're in the right place. If you need peace from mental stress, you're in the right place too. Sometimes it's not a physical thing that we can point at and say, oh, my arm's broken, or this thing happened to me, or I have this disease. Sometimes it's I just don't know why I can't be happy. Sometimes it's, I don't know why I talk so bad about myself. Maybe you're the kind of person that you're more likely to call yourself an idiot 3 times a day than you are to ever say that you did something well. Now, I don't want you all walking around being prideful, but at the same time, I don't want you going around tearing yourself down all the time either. God didn't make you to tear yourself down. What you do there is you take your worth and you bring it down to earthly level when He said it at the cross. That's what we do there. So maybe you need relief from mental stress, or maybe you walked into the building today and you have a spiritual stress. Maybe you've been faking it for a long time. Maybe you're just putting on for somebody else. Maybe you're starting to realize you've been faking it to yourself. You know, sometimes we can do that. We can try to fool ourselves. Maybe you've just plateaued out. You look back at the last 5 years and you say, am I closer to God than I was 5 years ago? Maybe you're doing okay spiritually, but you are praying your heart out for somebody you love. God, could they just see you the way I do? Could they just get a hold of you the way that who I know you are? Not that they'd be carbon copies of you, but that they could understand who Christ is. Maybe you're praying for somebody that needs a spiritual relief, a spiritual peace. Well, you're still in the right place. It's pretty cool. It's like a multifaceted place of peace, you know? It's almost like Christ is enough for all that we need. The truth about peace, though, is that it's something we all search for, believers and non-believers. Everybody's looking for it. I believe the reason we're all looking for it is because we're all actually looking for Jesus. And Jesus is Prince of Peace. He's the peace bringer. So it makes sense that if we're searching for peace, the real root of that is that we're searching for Christ Himself. But it means a lot more than just the definitions we put on it. What do you think of when I say peace? What's the first word that comes to your mind? You can say it. Peace, anybody? Nobody? Love? Yeah, there's all kinds of different things we think of. The first thing that comes to mind, maybe this says something about me, maybe I'm weird. I think of, when you say peace, I think war. And I don't mean to say that like I'm dark or I'm weird, but I think the opposite for some reason. When you say peace, I think of war and how much people will say they fight for peace by not being peaceful. And now I'm not saying that every armed conflict ever was not able to be justified. Don't get me wrong. I understand sometimes you run out of options there. But were you ever in the car? Maybe you guys took road trips as kids, and you'd be in the car, and your parents would say, you know, you'd be like 2 or 3 days in, long enough to where like the shine wore off of it. Like it's you're in the car now, and it's been a while. And you've been around each other for a while now, and you're remembering like, oh yeah, I don't like that thing that person does, or oh, that's starting to bug me. And all of a sudden, one of your parents will turn around and they say, we're gonna have fun today, if you like it or not. You guys ever hear that one? We are gonna have fun today, whether you like it or not. I've heard that one before. When you try to force peace, it kind of turns into that, like, we're gonna have peace if I have to fight you or not. It's like, wait a second, we're gonna bring peace by killing each other. That's what we're gonna do. And hey, humans, we've tried that for a long time. We have gotten really good at killing one another in the name of peace, which sounds a little ridiculous, doesn't it? But peace is important. The guarantee of not just your physical peace, but of your spiritual peace that comes from Christ is something we should all be thinking about. Because when we try to force peace on people, it usually just breeds more hostility. And you guys know I like history a lot. You go back, and at the end of World War I, they signed a treaty, uh, and it doesn't matter what it was named. I don't need to say it. It doesn't matter. But they signed this treaty, and they said the war's over, basically, and the war was done. But the problem with the treaty was it looked like it was tailor-made, basically, to set up for another conflict. All kinds of things in there that made Germany in particular come into some serious recession and take a lot of responsibilities, things like that, and it almost like set them up to be manipulated, you guys. And so what happens is there's this guy from history. His name's Hitler, and people don't like talking about him because he's a terrible person. But he comes up and decides that he's going to capitalize on this situation and ends up getting all of these people together in this country to go start. And they started annexing, which is a really nice way to say take your stuff. And they started to annex other lands, other countries around them. And that's a problem if you live in those countries. You're like, wait, this is my country, and now it's not. And so all of these people had just come from World War I, just 20, 25, 30 years ago, before that. And they didn't want another world war. And so there was this guy, he was the Prime Minister of Britain, his name's Neville Chamberlain. I just like the name Neville. Anytime I can use it, I like to use it, because there aren't enough Nevilles anymore out there. Does anybody here know a Neville? None of you do, right? Yeah, we need to make more Nevilles. Yeah. But Neville Chamberlain thought if we just give Hitler this last bit of land, he'll agree to chill, basically. I'm just breaking this down for you really quick. He'll agree to chill, and we'll all be good. So he flew out to meet Hitler, and they sat down, they signed a piece of paper. It's like 2 paragraphs long. It's like maybe 3. And it basically says, hey, you can have this land that you took, and we get a guarantee from you that you won't fight anybody else, that we'll be done. We'll be done with this. You won't take any more land. This was in 1938. Chamberlain comes back to London, and he holds up this piece of paper that Hitler signed, and he says, it is peace in our time. Waves it around. There's a famous video of him doing this. Peace in our time. In less than a year, World War II started. One of the problems with peace is that when we make peace with one another, and that's it, when it's just between me and you, and there's not a Jesus involved, it's dependent on me and you. It's dependent on the humans that made the peace. And a human can sign a piece of paper and say, we're not going to fight you guys anymore, and in less than a year, start a global conflict, you guys. I'm telling you, you can make peace with someone if it's just built on the foundation of you, and it can crumble in a moment. And you can wave it around and say, peace in our time, but if there's no Christ involved in it, then it's just kicking the ball down the field. We'll deal with it later. So peace is a problem because it can be fragile. That's one of the biggest problems with peace, is it can be fragile. Another problem with peace is that the conflict itself can also be, peace can be subjective. And think about it this way. Let's see what's happening right now in the world. So Ukraine and Russia is happening still. That's still going on. And then now there's also the Israel and Palestine. I don't want to get political on you. I'm not going to go down that road. I mean, you can just read the Bible and figure out what you need to figure out, okay? They've been trying to get rid of those guys for a long time, and they're still around. That's all I got to say about that. But there's conflict there. Now, we could go and make peace in those places to the best of our ability. We could go there and literally round up half of the people who live there and move them somewhere else and force peace on them. Now, I would not agree with that. I think that would be a terrible idea. But I bet it wouldn't feel like peace to the people who lost their land, would it? But it might feel like peace to the people that gained their land. You see what I'm saying here? How one action could be, well, peace for someone and not peace for someone else. And so now it's really complicated. If the peace itself is subjective, and then also the conflict can be objective too. So not even just the peace, but the conflict. We all go through things differently. Do you guys know we experience life differently? Some of us are equipped to handle things in a different way than others. Some of you are way better at dealing with stress than other people are. Some of you are way better at organizing than other people are. Thank God for you. I need you guys so much for that, by the way. You organizers, I'm so jealous of you and that you can do that. My brain just doesn't work that way. I don't know why. So it's just how it is. So I thought of a illustration here that might help. I didn't bring these weights up here to get yoked on stage. You know, I'm not going to lift weights while I'm preaching, but I need, Lane and Sierra, and where's Seth? Is he up here? Yeah, Seth, can you guys come up here? Hey, 10 pounds, it depends on what you're talking about, is not that heavy. A 10-pound dog, very small dog, isn't it? 10-pound bass, sign me up. You know what I'm saying? Yes, please. 10-pound catfish, But you know what I'm saying? 10-pound bluegill, I don't even know if that exists. But 10 pounds is just 10 pounds. You guys, I could do this for Not as long as I'd like to. To be honest with you, this is fine. This is no problem, you guys. The problem with like weight is that if you like extend it out like this, it's really hard to hold up for any amount of time. So here, you guys take this. I wanted to see. Go ahead, grab the weight and just on the count of 3, just hold it out here as long as you can. Last one to drop wins, whatever. What? No, you can go this way or this way. Either one. We'll accept it all. So 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, I'm going to have them hold that while I'm preaching to you guys. Each of these is 10 pounds, right? Let me make sure. Yeah, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Each of these is only 10 pounds. Did you fail? Oh, it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You did great. You did great. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You can hang out for a sec. No, you're good. Are you guys good? I didn't think they would make it this far. I didn't have this planned. Sierra, thank you for playing the part right. What? No, you can't. No helping each other. No making shalom right now. I need you guys to struggle, okay? The weight is causing the conflict, right? The conflict is right here, roughly, in the shoulder area, and it hurts a little bit. Sometimes conflict hurts. It just does. You guys, I'm impressed right now. Seth only did 30 seconds of this in the store. But the thing is, it's the same exact weights. If I handed you guys this, and you gonna make it? Oh, he's all right, Seth wins. Good job, guys. Thank you. I set him back down there. I don't want to trip over him. You know how much I pace up here. But this is 10 pounds. It's the same 10 pounds for each of them, but they each had a little bit of a different interaction with it, didn't they? The same 10 pounds, which means that the same stress that I could have and that I might be able to stand here for 10 minutes holding out, you might have for 30 seconds and go, I don't know if I can do that. And that might mean that the same problem that you have, that you've been dealing with for 30 years, I might have been dealing with for 6 months and be falling apart about it. Sometimes the problem, the inhibitor for peace, is that we're unwilling to accept that people go through struggles differently, that people grow at different rates, that people learn at different rates. I will never try to push somebody further than God is calling them to. But I don't want to make people grow quicker than they're ready at all. My only ask is that we're growing in the right direction, that we're moving in the right direction. And so maybe if we could realize that the same 10 pounds is not the same 10 pounds for everybody, we could be better peace bringers. We could be better representatives of Christ. We could maybe see each other through the eyes of Jesus. Maybe we could have more patience with each other. That's a dirty word, isn't it? We could have more patience with each other. Maybe we could love each other a little better. You put a year's supply of beer in front of me, and I won't want that. There might have been a time in my life when I did, but not anymore. I won't even be tempted by that. You put a PS5 right here with a couple brand new games like that I like, I might be tempted to sloth. I won't lie to you guys, okay? All of a sudden it got real, right? It got real. The different things tempt us differently. And we have to have that in mind when we're helping each other. This was one of the things that dawned on me early on in youth ministry, because when you're doing youth ministry, well, students will come up to you and they'll be like, oh, my girlfriend broke up with me and my life's over. And like when you hear that as an adult with like bills and stuff, now hold on. When you hear that, your first reaction is like, oh man, you're going to be fine. Like she wasn't even that good for you anyways, man. Like you could do better. But to them, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to them. It's the end of the world. It's the most hurt they've ever felt in their hearts, right? And they're learning from it. They're being formed by that. And so our job is to meet people where they are to help get them to Jesus, right? And if that means that I get the opportunity to help someone through a pain that they're going through, to help them get to the peace that Christ offers, then that's what we should be doing as the church, you guys. That's kind of our job. And you're like, what is he talking about? This is Christmas. This ain't even about Christmas. Relax. This is all about Christmas, you guys. This whole thing is about Christmas. It's about Jesus and Jesus' birth on that we celebrate on Christmas is the beginning of the earthly plan. It's the beginning of that boots on the ground moment, right? I mean, they're little boots, they're little baby boots, but it's a huge deal. You don't get to the cross and you don't get to the empty tomb without the birth. So that's why it's such a big deal. And we're all, like I said, we're all seeking peace. So Jesus talked a little bit about peace. John 14:27, if you want to jump in wherever you are going to read from here. John 14:27. It says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." That's a really encouraging verse right there. I'll read it again. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." And so I've been talking about how earthly peace is difficult. And the real flaw in when we seek earthly peace is exactly in the title there. It's just earthly peace. And so I want to start looking for a perfect peace. That's the two phrases we're going to put against each other this morning. There's an earthly peace and there's a perfect peace. And I want to talk about how those things are different. Earthly peace is fragile. I already talked about that. But perfect peace is sturdy. And the reason it's sturdy is because, and hang with me here, it's going to sound weird, it is unearned by you. The reason it's sturdy, don't take this in a bad way. I'm in the same boat with you. We're all on the same ride here, okay? The reason it's sturdy is because it's built on Jesus and not me. It's built on Jesus and not you. And I love you guys. You guys are awesome. I love all of you. You're pretty cool people. But I don't want my perfect peace to be rest on just your shoulders. I don't want to build the foundation on just you, and I don't want you to build it on just me. We need to be building that foundation on who Christ is and his abilities, because they're way greater than ours. Way greater than ours. It's right there in verse 27. It says, "Peace I give you." Peace I give you. Christ earned it for us. He earned it for us. Nothing that you did. You can't walk around and boast about it. You can boast in his glory. You can tell everybody how amazing he is, but you can't claim it. You can't claim that you did it for yourself. It's sturdy because it's unearned by you. Earthly peace is subjective. We talked about that. But perfect peace from Christ is unlimited. It's unlimited, and it's perfectly planned for each of us. Now, unlimited is literally impossible for you to imagine. Impossible for me. I cannot think. Just sit down, try to think of infinity for a second, and your brain will hurt. And then stop trying to think about it, because it doesn't help you at all. It's unlimited. We're not just talking about peace from war and conflict. We're talking about peace that passes even the limitations of this earth that we live on. Right here, "Peace I give you, not as the world gives, do I give you." So Jesus is telling his disciples then, and he's telling us today, that the kind of peace that he gives is different than anything that we could encounter on earth. It's not just the same. You're not going to, you don't have to be worried about being invaded by an outside force, or you don't have to be worried about disease, or you don't have to be worried about struggle. That's not what he's guaranteeing here. What he's guaranteeing is that through those things, we can have peace that's built on him. Through those trials of life, we can still have peace because it's built on him, and his peace is unlimited. If you're going to bet your eternal existence on something, I have news for you. You're going to exist eternally spiritually. There's an eternity. There's here now, and then there's outside of this, you guys. There's a life after this that we can share with God, or that we can not have God. Those are your two options. You can have God or not God. You get to pick. Should be an easy choice until it comes down to, but I really want that thing. Oh, but I really like doing that. I know God said, don't mess around with that. I know God said, don't step out of my marriage. I know God said, don't lose my temper like that. I know God said, don't get drunk. I know he said those things, but did he know how fun some of them were? We talk ourselves into it, right? We justify it. Well, I wouldn't have done it if this wouldn't have happened. I just really needed to. I was just really struggling, guys, and so I just had to do it. No, I love when people say I just blew up on someone, because you didn't just blow up on somebody. You chose to be angry at someone and lose your temper. That's how that worked. But when we say I just blew up, it takes some of the responsibility off ourselves, right? And it's like, oh, it was somebody else's fault. Yeah, maybe they played a part in it, but you did too. So if you're going to have to depend on something for your eternal existence, I want you to pick Jesus to be that's something. That's the only thing that's going to get you there. You're not going to make it on your own. You're not going to make it with somebody else's faith. You're not going to make it by being a good enough person. And I know that one's kind of confusing, but I promise you, you're not going to make it that way. The only way you're going to make it is by the peace that Christ has already bought for you. That's it. That's the only way you get there. And that peace is unlimited. No matter what conflict, struggle, trial you think you're going through, Christ has a peace to give you that can get you through it. Earthly peace is often misguided. We think we have it and we don't, or someone's lying to someone else and we get misguided. But perfect peace is unwavering because of the truth that it's built on. Check this out. Verse 27 it says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled nor fearful." So that means that perfect peace should bring freedom, doesn't it? Don't let your hearts be troubled. He's not saying that you'll never have a conflict. He's saying that when you go through it, because of the peace that he gives, don't let your hearts be troubled. I know that because further on in John 16:33, it says, "These things I have spoken to you, so that in me you may have peace. In the world you have tribulation, but take courage, I have overcome the world." So the Jesus that guarantees us peace is saying, oh yeah, I know the world can be tough, but I've already overcome the world. Oh, you see the world like that guy out there? Don't worry about that guy. I can handle the world. I got that part down. I'm just asking you, can you give me yourself? I don't want you to figure the world out and then go to Jesus. I want you to go to Jesus because he's already figured the world out. You see how that takes the stress off? You see how that could bring you peace? You see how that could change how you look at everything that you do, how you make every decision in your life? These things I've spoken to you so that in me you may have peace. In the world you have tribulation, but take courage, I've overcome the world. That is perfect peace. If you can live in that, that's perfect peace. And how this works is the perfect peace gives us an ability to do things that we shouldn't be able to do. that we just shouldn't be able to do. I look at people who have missionary families. The Amy for Africa. I see she has her and her husband and their family. They are not in the world's safest place to live. I see missionaries take their families all over this globe. I know people who are in countries that I can't tell you about because if people knew what they were doing there, the government could kill them. And they have their families there. It's not just them that they're risking. They got their wife or their husband and their kids there too. When I talk to them, they're just at peace about it. They're just at peace about it. And it's almost mind-boggling to think, how could you know the risk, and because they have a perfect peace that's from Christ. There's nothing that the world could do to them that could take away what Christ has given to them. And so they go and they do what Christ has called them to do. He's called them to missions. And that's wonderful. Maybe he hasn't called you to that. That's fine too. Maybe he's just called you to minister in your workplace or in your family or in your friend group, wherever it is you end up. Maybe he's just calling you to that. That's okay. Some people are missionaries and overseas, and some people do the work right here. I'm not saying you're worth less or more, but you can have the same perfect peace as you enter into those conversations. You ever get stressed out when God's really leaning on you, like, hey, that person needs to know about Jesus. Hey, that person that you see every day, I put you there so they can know about Jesus. So do your part because I put you there. And you hear that, and you hear the tap on the head, and sometimes you get nervous because, well, what if they reject me? Or what if they don't talk to me after this? Or what if this, what if that? And he's saying, hey, I got that part figured out. Can you just act in the peace that I give you and go and do what I've asked you to do? Peace, perfect peace, is why as we age, who knows how close we all are to the end, but just statistically, as we get older, we know we're probably getting closer. That's just the truth, isn't it? Maybe some of you can feel it. Maybe you can't. We don't know. Nothing's guaranteed, but I'm just saying statistically. But perfect peace is why all the way up to as long as God has us here, we can still continue to serve him. Perfect peace is why we don't have to sit around all day thinking, is it going to be today? Is it going to be today? Am I going today? We don't have to do that. We don't have to be fixated on death because he's already handled that part for us, you guys. He's already dealt with the death part. He's already conquered it, and we just have to serve him in the perfect peace that he gives us. That sounds like a really good deal to me. I would have got more excited about that if I was you guys. I'm just saying, like, that was exciting to me that you don't have to die. Nobody else is jacked up about that part. I don't know. Maybe you ate too many cookies this weekend. The Christmas sugar is getting you, but perfect peace is why you can do what you do for Jesus. It's because of the perfect peace that he has given us. And now hear me out on this. I highlighted this and capitalized it so I wouldn't miss it. If you want to be a better Christian moving forward, you want to represent Christ better in your life, then be a peace bringer. Next time you get mad, next time someone pushes you, people are going to push you, especially if you got kids. But you don't have to have kids to be pushed. but people are going to push you. You're going to be exhausted. I saw this. You guys seen Bluey? It's this kid's show. You might not have seen it. It's a kid's show. It's also an adult show too. Like you can watch it as an adult. It's fine. I won't judge you. But it's this Australian family of dogs. It's animated. So don't worry. I'm not freaking out here. But there's this one. I saw a picture of a scene from it, and it was the mom, and she's exhausted. She's just wore out, and she says, "I've been tired for 5 years," and the oldest says, "Oh, I'm 5 years old," and the mom says, "That's funny, isn't it?" And she tired for 5 years, right? But you don't have to have kids to be exhausted. The world will bring you down. The world will grind you down if you let it. And sometimes when you don't let it, it'll still get you. You don't have to. You don't have to be a bad person to struggle. Good people struggle. Bad people struggle. Rain falls on us all sometimes. Sometimes you look up and you go, "Really?" And he says, "Yeah, really. How are you going to grow? How are you going to use this? You trust me, don't you? You're working with that peace that I gave you, right? You know that I see more than you, right? And that I can cast forward way further than you can, and I understand what I'm doing with all this. You trust me, don't you?" When you get worn out, when you're running out of peace, I'm telling you guys, that's when you need it the most. So the next time that you feel like you're about to lose it, be a peace bringer. Choose it. It will have to be a choice. It will not come naturally. You will want to, when they cut you off, you're going to want to say the thing and do the thing. When they snap back at you, you're going to want to say the thing and do the thing. But in the moment, can you trust that God's working, and can you submit to his peace and be a bringer of that peace? Can you put down your pride and serve Christ by sharing his peace with others? This is a long story, just hang with me. Picture it if you can. Northeastern France, not a time you want to be there though. November 11th, 1918, 10:59 a.m. First World War's been going on for 4 years. They signed a treaty to end it. An armistice was going, and they signed it at 5 a.m. on the 11th. And the group of people there decided, hey, let's just run with this 11 theme, and we'll go on the 11th day, or 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. That's when the war is going to end. Now, there were 6 hours in between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. that day. They signed the treaty, and all the combatants decided at that point the guns will stop firing at 11 a.m. I'm not sure why they waited 6 hours. I would have suggested maybe just ending it immediately. But they waited 6 hours. War killed about 40 million people. They named it the War to End All Wars. And it was going to go on for 6 more hours. There was an American soldier there. His name was Henry Gunther. He was on the front lines. He had risen up to be a sergeant, actually, and the conditions were so bad on the front lines that he wrote a letter back. That's him right there. Wrote a letter back to one of his friends at home and said, hey, do not enlist. Don't do it. It's terrible out here. You don't want to be here. It's a bad place. It turns out the military doesn't like it when you do that. And so they bumped him down back to a private, and I guess it was very shameful in the public eye because his fiance ended up leaving him over it. He got a letter about that while he's on the front lines, that he wasn't going to go home to be engaged anymore. And he spent the rest of the war obsessed with trying to regain whatever status he had lost. So him and his squad are out on the 11th, about 10:50. They run up on a German machine gun nest at a crossroads. And the Germans don't want to fight. And the Brits don't want to fight, and the Americans don't want to fight. They want to be done, except for Henry. At 10:57, he quietly fixed his bayonet to the end of his rifle. Nobody noticed it in the squad. If they would have, maybe they would have done something about it. At 10:58, he jumped up and he said, "I'm taking that machine gun nest." He took off right at it. Everybody yelled, "Don't do it. The war's almost over." Literally a minute and a half. It's done. It's already signed. It's done. You don't have to go die. And he runs. And he starts shooting. If you know anything about firearms from that time, they had just a 5-round magazine, yeah, and that was it. And then that's why he had the bayonet on. And he starts running, and the Germans notice it, and they're a little taken back. The war's over. It's over in 60 seconds. And they yell at him to stop. They beg him to stop, and he's shooting at them. He's not hitting them because he's running. It's hard to be accurate when you're running. And they shoot over his head thinking, we'll scare him. He'll stop if we shoot at him. He wouldn't. Finally, he almost got to the nest, and the Germans realized that this guy, if we don't shoot him, he's going to kill us. In just 1 second of machine gun fire, and that was the end of Henry's life. At 10:59 a.m. And at 11 o'clock, the war was over. And the Germans came out of their nest, and they picked him up, and they carried him back to his line, and they helped bury him. And they told the Allies, they said, we tried to stop him, but he just wouldn't. There's nothing we could do, and they understood. And I hear this story. I've heard this story before, and you say, what does this have to do with anything spiritual, Pastor? I wonder how many of us are silently fixing our bayonets right now. But the war's over. Peace was won on the cross, you guys. We live in that 6 hours, okay? We live in that time where peace has been won, but we're waiting for the long-expected Jesus, right? We're waiting for him to come back, you guys. We're waiting for the end of the conflict, but the decision's already been made on how it's going to go. And we don't have to die. But how many of us are fixing our bayonets right now? Nobody realizes it. How many of us are about to run back to that temptation, that thing that the enemy's dangling in front of us that he just wants to use to end you forever? How many of us are about to jump out of the safety of the cover of Christ and the peace he's given us and are about to yell, I'm going to go run up to that machine gun nest? How many of us are about to go running headlong back into sin or whatever it is that trips you up and keeps you from Christ? How many of us are going to stop pursuing peace even when it's already been won? And if you need somebody today to beg you, to plead you not to be, because here's the complicated part with this story. It gets wrapped up in a lot of pomp and circumstance, and it gets put out as this very brave individual. And while I won't comment on his bravery, I will say that his death was unnecessary. But so is every single person that ends up without Jesus at the end. It is an unnecessary casualty. It doesn't have to be that way. You can choose him. You can choose to live in the peace that he has provided for you. You don't have to die. You can live. But oftentimes we get misguided. Sometimes we need to be reined back in, which is okay. He understands that. Turns out God's kind of got this thing down. He knows how people work. I say all the time, I wish we didn't have the free will we did, but I also understand that there wouldn't be love the way it is if we didn't. We got time. Can we do that last song again, Jimmy? Can you guys come up? If you need somebody to ask you today to stop running toward whatever it is that's taking you away from Jesus, then I'll be that guy right now. Could you just stop? If you're in that moment where maybe you're thinking about it, you're fixing your bayonet, you've been preparing for sin, you've been setting the table for it, hey, just stop right now. If one of those guys in his squad maybe could have noticed what was happening, maybe he would have lived and got to go back to his mom and his dad and his family. If one of us could just notice that someone else is struggling, even if it's unsaid, if it's a silent struggle, if we could just pay enough attention to each other, if we could love one another enough, if we could be so committed to bringing peace to one another that we would notice when we're fixing that bayonet, maybe we could help save each other, you guys. We all need to stop fighting for our own glory. We can lay our sins down at the foot of the cross, and Jesus will make a trade with you, you guys. What he does is he takes that sin from you, and he gives you perfect peace. He takes that sin from you, and he gives you eternal salvation. He takes that sin from you, and he gives you life, and he gives it to you abundantly. Not just a little bit of life, he gives you a whole lot of life for you to live now and to live forever. It's a peace that's unearned by you, but freely given. It's unlimited in power. It's greater than anything this world could give, and it's unwavering in the face of adversity because it's founded in Christ himself, you guys. Make that trade. I took that deal. You should take that deal too. I would encourage all of you to take that deal. It's the best deal that will ever be offered. And so we're going to do that last song. If you guys want to pray, these altars are always open. I'm going to go pray. You don't have to, just because I am. It's not how that works. If you feel like God's calling you up here to pray about something or to pray for someone, maybe you know somebody that's out of the trench and running right toward their death. Maybe you just need God to intervene in a real way. Let's pray together, you guys. We can do that. This Christmas time, give your gifts. That's fine. I love to give gifts. I think it's fun. I like getting them too, but giving them is honestly probably more fun. But make sure you've accepted the gift of perfect peace from Christ. And then don't just stop there. Live in that completeness. Live in that shalom, that complete peace. Bringing peace to those around you as well. It's not just for you. Don't be selfish with it. Peace on earth, goodwill toward men. You guys know that line, right? Peace in our time. Sounds pretty good to me. But it sounds like more than a piece of paper to me. It sounds like Jesus.
Child and yet a king, born to reign in us forever. Now thy gracious kingdom bring, by thy own eternal Spirit, rule in all our hearts.
Amen. Amen. Hey, go be peace bringers. Go be peace bringers. Go be Christ to other people. Go out and do it. That's all I got. So you guys are dismissed. Merry Christmas.